That was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
Imagine for a second that you're a drag queen. Some of you watching might actually be. Now imagine that just like every other queen you work with, the main goal is not just to perfect your own drag aesthetics, performance style, or overall skills related to the job, but also to eventually get to compete on a Drag Race franchise, whether or not it's the main American series or international editions. Well, for a lot of queens nowadays, it can be both the best thing that's ever happened to you, while at the same time being a very scary position to be in. Yet, as you're probably wondering by the title of this video, why are RUGIRLS scared right now? And has the golden ticket gone stale? Well, let's find out. But before we start, I do want to spill some tea, or in this case, some coffee. I physically cannot start my day without it. But for the longest time, I was just grabbing whatever random bag of coffee I saw at the store that tended to end up either being too bitter, too weak, or just disappointing. Then I found Trade, and now my coffee actually tastes like something I want to wake up for. Trade is the #1 US specialty coffee marketplace, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the best roasters in the country. They've taste tested thousands of coffees to curate over 450 incredible roasts. So no matter if you're a total coffee snob or just someone who wants a good cup, they'll find the perfect match for you. When I first signed up, I took their quick quiz, and in under a minute, they matched me with a roast based on my taste preferences. And let me tell you, the first bag they sent me is insanely good. The smell alone was unreal, and when I actually made my first cup, I was like, is this what coffee is supposed to taste like? Plus, if you ever get a bag that isn't quite right for you, Trade will replace it for free until you get it just right. The best part is Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, but the quality is next level. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/greengay. Again, 40% off. And you'll be supporting the channel while doing so. Now, let's begin. Once upon a time, being cast on RuPaul's Drag Race meant that you were gonna be booked and blessed well into the future. Along with that, you earned yourself not just a platform, but the added benefit of higher booking fees, traveling around the world, earning experience that truly shapes you into a brand new queen. So by the time you made your return to All Stars, people saw someone whose drag aesthetic evolved like crazy. A personality that's much more confident, and skills that were developed and strengthened from touring and working with so many different drag queens from different cities or countries. Although it wasn't just that. Even after your season was done airing, you were essentially part of royalty. I mean, newer seasons were still gonna be coming along, sure, but you were also still fresh off the boat. So it meant that you'd still be getting good bookings working alongside other RuGirls in the business. I mean, hey, there's just so many different cities out there that it becomes easy for there to be enough work available for everyone. So then what's the problem? The problem that's come up over these past couple years, to put it into simple terms, it's gotten a lot more competitive to have a thriving career in your post-season life. Now, you all know that when it comes to the Green Gay channel, regardless of whatever topic I cover, I try to be objective, offering many different perspectives. While certain aspects of this video might sound a little sad or I guess negative given that we're talking about queens fearing for the longevity of their careers, there is some positives that can be traced within the fast-growing pace of the franchise. So bear with me, especially if you happen to be an actual Drag Race queen that's watching. The facts of the matter are that while the series continues to grow in popularity, the amount of queens that the fanbase has gotten to know has also expanded. As of recently, Crystal Envy, a contestant on season 17, posted on Twitter that she, along with other queens in their cast, are struggling to even push past 100,000 followers on their respective Instagram accounts. Something that before, most of the cast would be able to break past that number within the first couple weeks of a season airing, with the winner eventually gaining over 1 million followers right after the finale aired. Although, why is social media, something that's easily accessible to everyone, getting such a dip? Well, there's a lot of different factors specifically for Instagram that comes into play. First off, for a while into the 2010s decade and beginning of 2020s, Instagram was arguably the dominant app for most people. The algorithm in itself was also super different. What you saw on your timeline feed was directly correlated with what accounts you were following. In recent years though, the algorithm has changed. Instead, it actively tries to find posts that relate to the type of content you've been saving, liking, and commenting. Meaning that you could very well see every post a queen makes throughout the course of a season without ever having to click that follow button. What's more is that queens posting their own photo shoots is not much of an engaging factor that fans look forward to anymore. The reason it was before was due to the lack of proper rollouts from World of Wonder. They didn't care to post the runways that the queens did, so oftentimes fans had to rely on screenshots that other fans made to appreciate outfits. But as we approached season 10 and everything that came after, queens got into the habit of making sure that they had photo shoots ready to post weekly after the episodes aired. Something that we saw get elevated as time went by, such as Yuhua Hamasaki, who despite going home third on season 10, had one of the most advanced showcases of her runways. You can watch this video link below if you want to know more. But anyways, within the past like 3 to 4 years, World of Wonder stepped up their game. And every time a new episode airs, they make sure to post professional high quality photos of each queen on the runway. Automatically, this was a huge loss for the queen's social media engagement, because it meant that most fans that wanted to see the details of each look didn't have to follow specific queens or wait till the algorithm made it appear on their feed. Instead, all you have to do is follow the official Dragrace account and you'll get all the looks within one post that you can just slide through to see what each queen wore. All of that being said, while over the past decade we've gotten used to high quality photo shoots that queens do, sort of making us numb to just how much work is put into each queen's social media post, we do get outliers, such as Plastique Tiara, who pretty much was filming movies with special effects and everything, resulting in each of her weekly runway posts for All Stars 9 being huge attractions for the fanbase, having people talking about it by just how impressed they are. So unfortunately, unless you're a fan favorite, people won't be going out of their way to support each one of your posts. Yet I do want to say something positive that's come from it. While yes, it is more challenging for you to substantially grow your social media while your season is airing, it isn't impossible. We've seen, especially in recent seasons, that as long as you bring in a fresh idea or content that we don't normally see, you will in fact get engagement from the fanbase. For example, Corey King, who just got eliminated on season 17, spent the months right after filming all the way to the lead up of the cast reveal, posting vlogs on her YouTube channel at a weekly basis. She did this for months, even though most of her videos weren't getting a lot of views, since she hadn't yet been announced, and the only people that knew about her were the super fans that had checked the rumored cast. Yet as soon as the Meet the Queens came out, there was a huge sudden increase in both subscribers, viewership, with her older content that she made throughout the preseason getting a boost in viewership too. It's a commendable achievement, since a lot of queens try making YouTube channels, but most of the time it doesn't take off the way we've seen other queens who've had their platform grow so big that YouTube ends up becoming a big part of their brand. All of this being said, the social media aspect is only one of the reasons that RUGIRLS are scared right now. The most concerning issue is that even though there's a lot of opportunities out there in terms of bookings, there's so many queens available to choose from that it's made it a lot more competitive. For example, queens tend to make most of their money in the summer, because that's when big cities all around the world have their pride events. With that, the priority tends to be the freshest queens in the franchise. So if your season aired within this past year, you're among the prime choices. The only two variables being A, you either won/made it far into your season, or B, regardless of your placement, you managed to become a popular queen within the fanbase. But that's not the end of it. Show promoters also have to balance hiring these new Drag Race queens with past alumni that have become icons. For instance, queens like Sasha Colby, Bob the Drag Queen, Monet Exchange are guaranteed to always have a booking well into the future, because they've become established names in the industry that have strong followings behind them, translating to better turnout for events since they're always on demand. Lastly, another component for event promoters is to include local talent that hasn't been on television, but still deserve to participate in Pride events. So then, where do we go from here? It goes without saying that, especially with Canada, UK, and so many other countries having their own franchises, that it means each respective country has their own Drag Race queens that they can book for Pride events, without having to do extra costs for travel or hotels. Yet, the main franchise, being the American one, still reigns supreme by a long shot as the most watched, most promoted, and overall most respected by the fanbase. Since editions like Canada's Drag Race has gotten flack over the past couple seasons for not having a good production behind it, plus the judging panel often being very off from the fanbase consensus, and that the majority of the cast are comprised of queens that aren't the most polished or well-rounded, at least compared to other international franchises like the UK. Plus, being crowned by RuPaul holds a lot more merit to it than being crowned by anyone else. So then, what exactly are the positives that we can make of this situation? The truth is that the franchise is still going strong. There's no end in sight for the American version ever ending, unless of course Ru decides to step down. down. But even then it'll probably continue. While the issue of too many queens has clearly resulted in it affecting the longevity of most of the cast, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for queens to work their way towards achieving a stable position in the fanbase. It just means that they're gonna have to be more creative with their approach to maximizing their time in the spotlight for the period of their season airing. The problem is that most queens follow the same blueprint that was laid out by the alumni of the past. They saw what everyone else did and just decided to do it too. Like queens that come out with their own review shows that tend to not be as popular as queens that make content that is more original. It's because times have changed, so the road to success has changed too. Another example is Corey King, who I am bringing up again because she is the most recent example, and also my oomph on Twitter. Corey King didn't just start making YouTube videos reviewing Drag Race episode that tends to be the go-to for a lot of queens. She instead made daily vlogs. Now we have seen other contestants do vlogs too, but not in the way Corey has. So it's something that's unique to her. Along with that, she's reimagined the way queens use the Cameo app by recently doing character impersonations of personalities like Susie Toot.
For me, Susie Toot, I couldn't be the amazing dancer that I am if I was still holding the bottle. Look at me. A small, petite, tiny, 5'5" Jewish man here. And I could never do what I do without not drinking. And I could never do what I do without not drinking and being sober. So you cannot drink anymore.
There's so many funny moments that come from her doing stuff like this that it ends up being clipped and shared online because people just find it so entertaining. And mind you, you can literally tell her to do anything you want, as long as it's appropriate, by booking her on Cameo. So she's essentially harvesting a part of her brand where people literally want to pay her money on Cameo so they can get a funny clip to share with their friends, posting it online and hoping it goes viral, prompting Corey to have ended up in the top accounts of Cameo's website. Another good example of original approaches to content is Mistress Isabel Brooks, who is currently among the most popular queens of season 15 that's managed to remain in the forefront of relevancy by going out of her way to bring us the most chaotic type of content, like having newer queens be guests on her channel and overall just hustling, since she realized that she needed to make content that wouldn't be that easy for other queens to replicate. Or the example of Maddie Morphosis, who nobody could have ever predicted becoming the only queen from season 14 to have a huge hit series with her YouTube channel that has hundreds of thousands of fans tuning in every time she uploads. Without a doubt, this is proof that in terms of engagement from the fanbase, there's clearly an active amount of people that will support a queen's content just as long as it represents something fresh. And if it's not fresh, it needs to at least be up to standard. A very good example being Morphine's channel, that while it isn't the most popular, has content that's really well produced, sort of becoming one of my personal favorites that I actively tune into. Although it's important to note that even when it comes to queens that aren't able to achieve a long-standing platform by the time their season is finished airing, you have to remember that from a fanbase perspective, this is one of the most fruitful periods in terms of getting to know more artists in the drag world. I mean, let's just ignore what quote-unquote success means for a drag queen, and instead what being on the show means in the grand scheme of things. Popularity comes and goes, but what's left behind is the mark you made. Some marks are obviously bigger than others, but even a queen that goes home first or second is remembered by the fanbase. You can live on through memes that people make of you, or just overall being able to find some type of support whenever you do achieve something or are trying to seek help during moments of your career moving forward. What's happening right now is that when back in the day over 80% of the cast was gonna end up being rich for at least a couple years, it's now dwindled to just about 30% of them. So there's way more of an importance to actually making it far and winning the season, since that for sure solidifies a platform for you, and also it's a nice bonus of $200,000. What's more is that it allows you to negotiate your booking fee, so winning has become in a way more important than ever. Now we've pretty much covered the scope of why queens are now afraid, given the challenges of solidifying themselves as a high demand queen. With With that though, we should acknowledge the following. And it's that back in the day, for many decades, those that wanted to become a drag queen used to do it for the pure love of the art. They didn't care that they'd be struggling financially or being ostracized from most of society, including in the gay community that often viewed drag queens as weird people. They did it because they loved drag for how it allowed them to express themselves and the community that they could build from it. But nowadays, a lot of people become queens with the sole purpose of wanting to eventually get on the show so that they can be rich and famous. This worked for a while, but it's no longer the case. What I think we're gonna start seeing in the future is less and less people sticking to drag, or I guess not viewing it as a long-term plan for making a living. And so those that stay or are still interested in the art form will truly be doing it because it's their passion. That's not to say that it isn't sad for queens whose sole dream was to be rich and famous, but if it is gonna happen, then when you become a RUGIRL, you're gonna have to work super hard, since there's only so much that competing on the show can do for you. Although if certain queens have proved in the past, is that you don't even need to have an amazing showing for you to turn things around for yourself outside of it. Essentially, getting on the show still has a lot of meaning, and you've placed yourself within the best recorded pieces of drag history. So you're part of a legacy that's a lot bigger than most people realize. But I want to leave you with 3 questions that you can answer below. The first is, what are your thoughts about the new landscape available for Drag Race queens? The second is, do you think there's an unrealistic expectation that newer queens have going into it? And third, who are some of the queens that you feel were able to do something original with their careers outside of the show? Sound off below. Thanks again to Trade Coffee for sponsoring today's video. If you want to support the channel, click the link in the description and head to drinktrade.com/greengay to get a whopping 40% off your first order. I want to take a moment to thank my 2025 patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Sari Tish, Natasha De Leon, Las Potitas, Cool Gal Nan, and our newest Pink Squad member, please welcome Jetzam Adams. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, or Diesel Placer, depending on the time or day you catch him, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch, but a Keek, Jack Beck, Bashir with the good beard, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Max Whale, Olivia Marr, and of course, Dea. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description, and I appreciate your support. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.